सुनने आए हैं। जो लोग दिल्ली एनसीआर के नोएडा से वाकिफ होंगे उन्हें कैप्टन विजयंत थापर मार्ग से गुजरते होंगे और उनको ये जरूर याद होगा कि एक ऐसा रोड है इस शहर में। जब भी जीपीएस लगाते हैं तो वो काफी लंबी रोड है और जीपीएस पे अक्सर वो गूगल वाली लड़की इस शख्स का नाम बार बार लेती है। और मेरी तरह अगर आप लोग इस शहर से वाकिफ हैं तो यहाँ कई बार उस सड़क पे, जो कि बड़ी प्रोमिनेंट सड़क है इस शहर में, कई बार जैम में भी फंसे होंगे। और उसी जैम में फंसे फंसे मुझे एक साइन बोर्ड दिखता है अक्सर वहाँ पे, एक रोड साइन लगा है जिसका नाम विजयंत थापर मार्ग है। और वहाँ खड़े होके कई बार पिछले कई सालों में मैं हमेशा सोचता था कि इस नाम से इस शहर के कितने किस्से जुड़े हुए होंगे, कितनी शरारतें जुड़ी हुई होंगी, कितनी मोहब्बतें जुड़ी हुई होंगी, कितने कितने वाकयात होंगे जो ये नाम, ये साइन बोर्ड, ये रोड साइन बयां करता है। और क्योंकि आजकल हम सब घर में हैं तो उस मार्ग पे जाना तो मुमकिन नहीं हो रहा। और कुछ दिन पहले ही मैं उस रोड से जब गुजरा था तो ये ख्याल मेरे दिमाग में आया था। और कई बार चीजें होती भी इसलिए हैं कि आप उनको सोचते हैं और वो आपके साथ हो जाती हैं। लगभग मिड ऑफ मार्च रहा होगा, मैं काफी ज्यादा जैम में फंसा था, काफी बारिश थी वहां पे, और मैं एग्जैक्टली उस नीले बोर्ड पे जो कि एक रोम्बस शेप में लगा हुआ है मेट्रो स्टेशन के नीचे, मैंने इस नाम को देखा, विजयंत थापर मार्ग, और मैं एक्चुअली ये सोच रहा था। और लेकिन गाड़ी चला के मैं घर आ गया और बाकी की तरह मैं भी भूल गया, मैं इस नाम को याद नहीं रख पाया। लेकिन कुछ दिन पहले मुझे ख्याति जो कि पेंगुइन में है, कहूँगा कि ये एक शख्सियत है, इसके बारे में बात करना बहुत जरूरी है और ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है कि कैसे एक नाम अमर हो जाता है। उसी दौरान इत्तेफाक से मैं अपने फिक्शन के शौक की वजह से, मैं बहुत ज़्यादा फिक्शन नहीं पढ़ता, लेकिन क्योंकि जग्गी भसीन जो एक बड़े नामी गिरामी ऑथर हैं, उन्होंने मुझे अपनी एक साइन किताब दी। उस किताब को पढ़ते वक्त उसमें एक कैरेक्टर था सुवीर, फैंटास्टिक फिक्शन बुक द टेररिस्ट दैट ही हैज रिटन। उस किताब को पढ़ते पढ़ते उसमें जो कैरेक्टर है मेजर सुवीर, मैं उस कैरेक्टर को एक चेहरा देना चाहता था। मैं सोचता रहा, पिछले 2 हफ्ते पहले की बात है, मैं और थोड़ी देर बाद मैं जग्गी को मैसेज डालता था, इसे तो बड़ी कमाल है, पूरा एक दिन उस मेजर सुवीर में विजयंत थापर की एक छवि देख रहा है। तो इसलिए मुझको लगता है कि किताबें हमेशा अपने पैर, सिर, दिमाग, मगज, जिगर सब लेके आती हैं। आप उनके बारे में सोचते हैं और वो आपके पास आ जाती हैं। और कुछ ऐसा ही हुआ विजयंत थापर की इस किताब के साथ। जब पेंगुइन ने हमसे पूछा और हमने कहा तो हमारे लिए गर्व और सौभाग्य की बात है। और इस किताब को मेरे हिसाब से, मैं जितना पढ़ पाया हूँ अभी तक इस किताब को, इसको एक कोर्स बनाना चाहिए। दिस शुड बी अ कोर्स इन आवर स्कूल्स, नॉट बिकॉज दिस इज स्टोरी ऑफ Namar Shahid, but because this story has a lot of life into it. The story is not about someone being martyred, but for someone who has given his life for a purpose. And the entire story is so emotional that it definitely changes some part forms. और जो किताब को लिखते वक्त एडिटर का एक बड़ा खास महत्व होता है, तो मैं आमंत्रित करूंगा रोशनी को जो हमारे साथ हैं आज। और मेरा पहला सवाल उन्हीं को होगा, इससे पहले कि मैं जुग्गी को ये माइक दूं। रोशनी, मेरा पहला सवाल आपसे है कि इस किताब के दौरान दोनों ऑथर्स यहाँ पर हैं, कर्नल थापर हैं, नेहा यहाँ पर है। What was your experience in this entire journey of the book?
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of this today. So Vijayant at Kargil has been one of the most unique experiences, one of the most unique books I've worked on. That's because it's been an absolute honor to get to know Captain Vijyant Thapar. Earlier, I knew him from the letter that is always widely shared on Vijay Devas and sometimes on his martyrdom. And it's been a privilege to get to know him as a young man, and for that I thank Colonel Thapar for sharing his memories, for keeping Vijayant's story alive for the last 20 years and talking about it. And of course, I want to thank Neha who spoke to a lot of his friends, his family, his colleagues, brought out a lot of memories that were there, and it's been wonderful. But at the same time, there was always a sense of sadness, a sense of dread that I would never get to meet Vijyant Thapar, and that always played on my mind when I worked on this book. And I don't know what it must be to live through that feeling every day. But somewhere along the way, I also realized that it was very important to it's very important to keep our heroes and our martyrs alive. And the best way to do it is to keep them in our memories. And whether it's Vijayant, whether it's Major Dwivedi, Neha's father, or all the heroes that lay their lives down for us every year, every day. I think this book is a small attempt in keeping them alive. And so I'm just very glad to have worked on this book. And I hope that all of you get a chance to read it and enjoy it.
Thank you, Roshni. Thank you very much. That's so generous of you to be here, and thank you very much. Glad you could join in. I would now invite Juggi Bhasin. उनको बुलाने से पहले मैं उनका एक introduction आपको दे दूं. Juggi Bhasin is one of the first television journalists of India who is now a best-selling author, and I can vouch for it. From being the first Indian journalist to interview Kim Il-sung in North Korea, to being one of the very few journalists to have captured on camera the demolition of Babri Masjid. He has seen it all. This book resonates with him because he has extensively covered the insurgency in the Kashmir Valley, which is also the setting for his epic novel, The Terrorist. He is also a stage actor and a regular behavioral counselor and motivator. It's truly a privilege to have you here, Juggi sir, and thanks for accepting our invite. Over to you. Please take us through the book and through the journey of authors as well.
Thank you so much, Mohit. Such kind words. Really, really, thank you so much. Thank you, Roshni, for a wonderful introduction. शुरुआत करते हैं. Let's get the ball rolling. When I read this book, जो सबसे पहला जो ख्याल मेरे अंदर आया, the first thoughts which came to me were that Vijayant was, in one sense, he was an ordinary person, ordinary young boy, like so many young boys like around us. And at the same time, he had these extraordinary qualities, extraordinary passion and determination. I'm going to talk more about that particular quality a little later, but keep this thing in mind that an ordinary boy, an ordinary young man growing up with his dreams in his heart, but extraordinary determination. In a very strange way, when I read the book, and it's a very simple read, it is so clear, cogent, full of so much of emotion, you wouldn't like to put it down. You can actually read it in one go. It somehow very strangely reminded me of this fantastic war film which I had seen many years back, which I'm sure some of you must have also seen, called Saving Private Ryan. There is, very quickly, in 2 lines, I'll tell you, there is a scene in the film where, this unit is sent on a mission in the Second World War, and they have to retrieve Private James Ryan from the battlefield because his other brothers have died in the battlefield, and they want the only son to come back to the mother safe and sound. A unit is sent after him, led by a Captain Miller. In this mission, the entire unit is almost wiped out. All of them are killed, including Captain Miller. There is this last scene in the film where Captain Miller has been shot on the bridge. It's played by Tom Hanks. And Private Ryan is kneeling next to him and trying to make out what he's saying. And he says these 3 words. He says, "James, earn this, earn it." And somehow it reminds me of, this book, of the supreme sacrifice made by Vijayant, where he's telling us as Indians, as citizens, earn it, earn the legacy which I have left for you. Are you worthy of my legacy? The supreme sacrifice which I made, you Indians, you have to rise above it. You have to earn what I have left behind for you. So keep that in mind. Now let's talk about our 2 wonderful authors, Colonel Thapar. Colonel Virendra Thapar is a name I don't need to introduce. He's very famous. He's known. You see him on television screens. उनको आप हर रोज देखते हैं एक तरह से, जब भी कोई डिफेंस इशू होता है, कोई भी सोशल इशू होता है. बट मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि मेरे को जब मैं उनको देखता हूँ, मुझे क्या लगता है, मुझे हमेशा एक लगता है कि दिस मैन इज स्पीकिंग विद अ सेंस ऑफ मॉरल अथॉरिटी. एक उनके अंदर एक राइटियसनेस है, एक सिंप्लिसिटी, और एक जिसे कहते हैं ना, एक the right thing to do. He always speaks about that. So Colonel Thapar obviously needs no introduction. But let me come to Dr. Neha Dwivedi. And I was, for the first time when I saw her, I was very surprised. I said, Dr. Dwivedi looks very, very young, but she's done a fantastic job in collaborating about this book. There's something which I need to tell you about both these authors. Both these authors have, in a sense, loved and lost. We know Colonel Thapar lost his son, but Dr. Dwivedi, and I'm going to call her Neha, Neha lost her father in the Kargil War. So keep that in mind. We'll talk more about that a little later. One last point. You know, when we talk about these epic figures in a certain sense, about Vijyant, we talk about Captain Patra, for instance, we talk about, even we go back to independence, about Bhagat Singh and all that. You know, there is this larger than life image, and somehow we don't know the stories of their childhood, of the way they were growing up, their relationships. लेकिन इस किताब की जो खास बात ये है कि इस किताब ने विजयंत के कैरेक्टर को ह्यूमनाइज करा है. In fact, right from the moment when Vijayant was born till the moment when he made the supreme sacrifice on those icy slopes in Kargil, his entire life story is there. छोटे छोटे जो पल हैं, moments हैं, everything is there for you to read. So let's get the ball rolling, and I'm going to ask Colonel Thapar the first question. Colonel Thapar, this must have been very painful for you to recollect all those memories and put them together along with Neha and write this book. Talk to us a little bit about that experience. How did you go around doing that?
Well, firstly, you are very right that I had to relive the experiences of my life. I had to relive Robin's complete life. Robin is his pet name. Robin's complete life, his happinesses, his failures, his frustrations, and my own incapacities again and again and again. First, you write a manuscript, then you put it on the computer, then it goes for editing, it comes back, I think 3 or 4 times it comes back, and every time in the middle of the night, you have to sit down and recall those moments of life. How much the agony of having lost him at such an early age, and the fame that he has brought to the country first, to his battalion second, and to us, the family in the end. You know, those are the moments that both give you a lot of agony and a lot of pride. Pride that the son has achieved something very remarkable, and pain because you lost a loving child. So that's the kind of experience that we have to go again and again. We have to consult books. We have to see his small things, his his watch, his thermos, his other books and things like that, you know, and then the whole life replays. So that's what was a journey through which I went while this book was being made.
Right. Neha, आप in a sense मैंने आपको introduce करा था कि that like Colonel Thapar, you have also loved and lost. You lost your father in the Kargil War. Take us through that in a very short way, in a shortened form, about that journey, that sense of loss which you felt, and what motivated you know, to combine with Colonel Thapar and write this book on Vijayant.
So, thank you for your kind words. Firstly, Mr. Bhasin, you've been very sweet. I think that, you know, although we lost people in different capacities. I mean, Uncle lost his son, and I lost my father. You know, just like all fathers, your father's like the head of the family. He's like the pivot around which we all are. And you know, losing the head of the family at really young age. I was 12 when we lost him. and my sister was 8. You kind of, and I say this again and again, you just feel lost. You know, you yourself feel lost. So वो जरूर होता है. लेकिन in fact, Colonel Thapar was one of the few people जिनसे मैं शुरू में उसी time मिली, and I realized that there were even sons that were lost, there were brothers that were lost, and you know, ये उस time process नहीं करते थे हम. उस time लगता था कि सबके सिर्फ fathers ही हैं, you know, in the army. And I feel like what motivates me to tell the story is that I just feel that हम लोग अपनी real heroes के बारे में enough बात करते नहीं हैं. Every other thing becomes news, but you know, the hero stays in the news for probably 2 days, you know. And I've seen this over the years. It's been 21 years now, and I can say it with conviction that every time you know, something happens, you hear about someone losing his life in the line of duty, that news stays with you for precisely 2 days, or maybe on Republic Day or Independence Day, you know, things like that. And उसके बाद सब भूल जाते हैं. तो the whole act of writing a book, and you know, Uncle says it very nicely, that it becomes a monument to his life, and I think every hero's life deserves that. So that was my motivation, and that will always be my motivation. Yeah.
No, I think that's a wonderful thought, because this is not something which is a 2-day affair or something. This is something which has to be remembered by generations, and it's so well written. Let's start from his childhood. Let's go right back when he was a kid, you know. Colonel Thapar, आपने Vijyant का नाम, Vijyant by itself is a very unusual name, because you all know Vijyant tank होता है, and then you called him Robin also. तो ये नाम कहाँ से आए, किसकी इंस्पिरेशन थी?
देखिए, हमारा जो माइंड है, and we are programmed, our family is programmed in the army. It is fully programmed in the services. So when Robin was born, it was his birth was to take place on a date which fell between Guru Purab and Christmas. So between me and my wife, in the last stages, we decided that if he comes during Guru Purab, we will name him Guru, and if he comes during Christmas, then we'll name him Lord. But he decided to come in between. So the naming remained a very big problem. As it is, you know, I think parents never agree. If the name is recommended by the wife, the husband is not very happy about it. So it continued. For the time being, we named him Robin, because that is what I look at life through nature, through birds, through the bounty that God has given us. So one of the birds that I liked very much was Robin. So I named him Robin.
Okay.
And then I was posted to an armored brigade. Armored brigade, as you know, is with tanks. And one day I was having my cup of tea sitting in the balcony when we saw the tank transporter unloading a tank. That tank was Vijyant. And Vijyant was the first indigenously made tank. It was the main battle tank. And the idea struck me immediately that, look, this is such a nice name, because it means two. It means either victory in the end or in the end victorious. So therefore, you know, it appealed to me a lot, military mind as it is mine. So I spoke to my wife. She for once agreed with me. And without any further ado, we named him Vijyant. Now it was also very prophetic, because later on, the battalion that is joined, the unit that is joined, the famous 2 Rajputana rifles, their motto was forever victorious. So I think we took a very right decision at that moment of time, and fully satisfied with that name.
Okay, Neha, you know, when I read through the book, there are these absolutely, and I would request the readers to pick up this book, because Colonel Thapar was posted at various locations. He was, I think, in Pathankot, then Nagaland, Barakpur, Kalyani, Meerut. And you have described army life with so much of color, with so much of zest, you know, so much of brightness. How did you do your research? Did Colonel Thapar told you all these stories, or did you actually go to these places and get a feel of all this?
So, of course, Colonel Thapar wrote a lot of it, about their times in those camps. But as it turns out, I myself have stayed in these places. My father was posted in Meerut. I went with my husband to Mau. I've been to Pathankot. So, मैंने भी देखी हैं वो सारी areas. And in fact, Mau, Meerut में just before coming to Delhi, when my father was in Srinagar, हम लोग Meerut में थे. So actually, the same areas that we have spoken about in the book, I've seen those, and that really helped also because it. People say that, do you think that you have an advantage over, anyone else who would do a writing job of this book? And I said, yeah, because I could picturize those things. अगर Uncle Wheeler's Club mention करें तो मुझे पता है Wheeler's Club कैसे दिखता है. मुझे पता है कि वो roads कैसे दिखते हैं. And so it's because we have also stayed there and if you ask me, I do still believe that army life is indeed as colorful as that you are saying that the book describes it as.
Yes, absolutely. Colonel Thapar, I got the sense when I was reading the book that Vijayant, from a very early age, he idolized the army and he idolized you. Both he set you as an idol and he idolized the army.
Yeah, that is very right. You see, the point is that if you are from the kind of atmosphere that prevails around you, it starts settling on you. So if you are from let's say from the writers community, they will be talking about writing novels and books and literature and things like that. And if you are from a business community, you will be talking about business matters. In our house, there was no other talk. You had parade, you had PT, you had bugles, you had rifles firing, you had soldiers around you, you had guns. My brother was in the Air Force. He would fly his fighters over our house, shattering the entire piece, whatever was there. But what I mean to say, the atmosphere in which he grew up, it was but natural for him to take on to these services. And those were the years when he was, his character was being molded. So it shipped into him. There was no second choice for him. In fact, if I were to tell you what all we have gone through, you will be amazed. For example, one of my friends was a senior officer in the Tata Finance. So he told me, I went to him, I said, can you fix him in the Tata Finance? He said, bring him. So I took him there. He saw all those lovely air-conditioned office with small cubicles. And as soon as I came back, I thought he was very impressed. But he says, over my dead body, I will see these cabins. I will not. I will go, it's basically Air Force type, but so it was. So really speaking, the DNA was reinforced by the atmosphere in which he lived.
It's very heartening, Colonel Thapar, you're saying this because we all know आजकल थोड़ी बहुत वो बात नहीं रही in the sense, a lot of army families, their kids are doing their MBAs or other things. They're not many of them are going into the armed forces, which is really sad because you do need the tradition of army families to send their sons into the army, which is not really happening. But let me ask you another very interesting question. Why this book is also appeals to me, and I'm sure it'll appeal to all the readers also, because it describes Vijayant's struggle also in a certain sense. For the benefit of all our readers, Vijayant, pehle attempt mein NDA, he did not clear. And he was so disappointed, he was so dejected. But I think, Colonel Thapar, you must have played some stellar role in motivating him because he made up his mind कि मुझे ग्रेजुएशन करनी है और उसके बाद मुझे IMA करना है and join the army. Tell us about this struggle because he was going through a lot of struggle during that time in his mind.
You see, for this struggle, obviously, once again the parents and the atmosphere in which you are working is responsible. Beginning, Vijayant has got into a habit of me sitting across the table and appreciating kind of sum he solved, every sentence he wrote. So I had to tell him, well done, well done. And that kind of kept him going. But I never conceived a time would come that in my absence, he won't kind of go ahead. So as luck would have it, the army chose to send me to Assam at the most crucial time of his life. And that support which he got from his father, only from his father, was gone. And with that, he started finding himself at a loss as to how to go about it. Because he had become almost dependent on me for his studies and for his grooming. But unfortunately, that crucial time when it was needed most, I was not there. And that was also not because of my own fault, but the service requirements, they took me to Assam, where I could not take. So that, but the role really played is not as much by me as the support given by his mother at a crucial time. When he locked himself after his debacle for the NDA, he locked himself, and then, he was contemplating how he could not make it and what he requires to do. That is the time when his mother came to his support. She is the one who took him into his arms and told him, son, nothing has happened. You now be with us. You've not been with us for a long time. You be with us and you go and study and make sure that you get into the next slot, whichever is possible. And that's how he got his confidence with his mother and then went ahead.
And also, I think the entire family supported him. His grandmother, he lived with his grandmother, with his aunt, his cousins, Bonnie, and other people. So everyone was rooting for him. So the family support was very important.
Family support was important, but that crucial support, that one thing, nobody would have that patience to sit down with him for hours and hours when he solved mathematics questions, or he was going through a guide. No, you require certain parental supervision at that moment of time. Everybody got, my brother-in-law, he had his own big business. He once or twice would tell him, son, study hard, and that's about all. So gradually he started slipping, and a stage came when he not able to handle the load of this kind of study that comes between.
Right. Neha, let me come to this now interesting phase in Vijyant's life when he's a young man. He has passed out from his IMA. He's got his posting. He's now in the 2 Rajputana Rifles. He's joined his regiment. He's interacting with his peers, with his superiors, interacting with his juniors. और जो मुझे चीज जो मैंने नोटिस करी in this interaction that he always gained this childlike enthusiasm. It was always like bubbling with this enthusiasm.
Mr. Bhasin, I couldn't hear you. You went mute on me, so I couldn't hear you. So you'll have to probably repeat it.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just very quickly, I'll say that let's come to this interesting phase in his life when he's a young man now. He's passed out from the IMA. He's got his regiment. He's got his posting. He's interacting with his peers, with his superior officers, but his juniors also. But in all his interaction, there is this childlike enthusiasm which he always has. There's such enduring quality which he has. Talk to us a little bit about that. And one more thing, Neha, मैं 2 questions आपसे इकट्ठे ही पूछ रहा हूँ, फिर आप मुझे पूरा जवाब देना. With Colonel Thapar's permission, he met this girl Naina for a few times, and he was completely in love with her. It's there in the letters also. It comes across so clearly. He carried that love and that passion for her in his heart right till the end. So talk us this journey of his. थोड़ा संक्षिप्त में थोड़ा हमें दोनों चीजें बताइए.
So आपने बिल्कुल सही बोला कि even though he was in academy में चले गए थे, फिर he went to the regiment, but he always had like this childlike innocence to him. तो आपने जब you had asked me how I went with the research, right? तो मैं जब भी research करने के लिए in the beginning, of course, I made a list of people according to what uncle and auntie told me. And made a list of people that I would like to meet. And one thing that I used to do was every person that I would meet, मैं उनसे पूछती थी कि आपको लगता है कि मैं कोई और से भी मिल सकती हूँ. And that's how I met his classmates from the academy. तो वो लोग सब भी एक ही चीज बोलते थे कि वो ना बहुत जोश टाइप था. They would always say कि उसको ना he wanted to do everything very well. उसको and शुरू में when you don't know each other and you've just seen everyone together, है ना, तो you don't know how everybody's journeys are. So it could be very easy to judge someone like that कि ये तो enthu cutlet है or something like that. ये बहुत जल्दी सब कुछ करना चाहता है. But इतने innocent थे, like he was such a genuine man that eventually everyone themselves understood that he's actually that sincere a person. He's not really competing with everyone else. It's more for his own self. He just wants to be the best at what he's doing himself, and that came across to everybody. So it was I was very touched to see that even though all his classmates had not met him for 21 years now, they've just probably spent 1.5 years in their academy time, or uske baad hardly 6 months in service, and still after all this time also सारे के सारे लोग उनके बारे में बात करना चाहते थे. उनकी छोटी छोटी चीजों को याद रखा हुआ था उन लोगों ने, and their memories were vivid. ये लोग तो फिर भी बड़े होके मिले थे. There was one friend of his that I spoke to who was in California, who'd only met him last time when he was 12. But उनको भी उनके बारे में सब कुछ याद था. So I think that's such a great quality of a person, that he touched so many lives and his sincerity had come across so well. That everybody, it was just very...
Neha, talk to us about Neha.
So now, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now, extending it to Neha, if you realize this, that in the entire time, he was not somebody who would really speak about, girls or whatever, that side of him was not there for a long time until he met Neha. So his sincerity actually, reached on till there, like even in a relationship or even towards love as an emotion, he was as sincere. He never looked anywhere else, even when he did not know for sure कि बात वापस कर पाएंगे कि नहीं, because he actually met her right before going to academy, and he still held that same feeling for her, and he went and sought her later, and that was great. Like, you don't see some people with such sincerity even now. So I do feel that that's one of the best qualities about him, and is what that endears him to everyone else.
Right.
Yes, I'd like to. Neha, I have had a long relation with her now. I would like to say that she's my daughter. After Robin went away, she's my daughter. I claim that. Not only was she a very beautiful girl, extremely beautiful girl, but she was a very loving kind of a girl. I cannot forget those moments, Juggi, when Robin, she came to attend his last rites, and we didn't write very much about those things, but she came to attend his last rite, accompanied by her father. And a lot of people were talking a lot of wrong things, and would not allow her to go where in the room where his body was lying. I took the decision, no matter what, this girl of 19 years, I will fulfill her wish. So I told her, look, you can go there, but don't create any scene. So she stood there. Just imagine standing next to the person you have loved, 2 feet, 3 feet away, and he's lying there, and she stood there like a statue, just like a statue. It was heartbreaking for me. I forgot everything else, but I was just looking at her. And when the buyer was taken out, at that time, she just kept quiet. As soon as the lot of people had gone out of the room, she simply, I know she must have got such a pain in her heart. She just collapsed and fell and cried like anything. That is something that never leaves my heart. So that is the kind of...
this only brings tears to our eyes. I mean, this is such an emotive thing which you've just said, which is, it's not there in the book, but you just told us for the benefit of all our people who have logged in. Thank you so much for sharing this. One more thing about Vijyant which really impressed me was that he had this care for people even in a hostile zone. I'm talking here of Rukhsana. So for our readers, Rukhsana is this Kashmiri girl, and her father was killed by militants, and somehow Vijayant just took it upon himself to look after her, to provide for her, to care for her. And even today, Rukhsana has grown up today, and Colonel Thapar is in touch with her. So Colonel Thapar, just tell us a little bit about this episode. Just so it speaks so much about the character of your son.
Well, actually, it is not an individual Rukhsana that he was worried about. It was his heart. It was that beautiful feeling of empathy, sympathy, and wanting to do something for the needy. That always haunted. Was in his heart. So when he went there, he saw this girl, and we have described it amply in the book. But over and above that, this girl was almost relegated to a mute kind of a child, till his love gave her the voice she wanted. It was only his love that encouraged her and gradually gave her the voice. And look, what I want to say is that even at the last moment, it was the battle, when he was writing his last letter, it was, a matter of just time before things may have taken a wrong turn, as they did. At that time also, his concern for that girl had not abated. It was there very much. And he wrote to us that you please take care of her and give her 50 rupees, that is a school tuition fee. Please keep on giving that. Of course, as an army officer to an army officer, father and son, there was an understanding, and I have tried to fulfill that to my extent that I can. I go there every year. I look after whatever her needs are to the extent that I can, and I have tried to
Yes.
get understanding of it.
Yeah, I can see Mohit now coming back because I think our time is running short. But Mohit, I'll just take 5 minutes because I'm coming to the most decisive part of this discussion. And I know it's going to be painful for Colonel Thapar, but I still need his comments and views upon it. And this is the final phase, the Kargil phase. So very quickly for our readers, initially, Vijayant was not in the battle. He was training nearby when the battle had broken out, when the war had broken out, and then he was sent to the firing line. Literally, he took part in the first Battle of Tololing, which all of you remember was a very decisive battle, and he played a role in the capture of Barbad bunker, if I'm not mistaken. Colonel Thapar, first tell us very quickly a little bit about that, and then on that fateful day when he was given the orders to, with his company of, with his 12 people, to charge at Knoll to take over the enemy post, and at the final assault which he led, and what happened out there. If you can tell that in your words, that would be really nice.
So you see, it is very clear that he was the kind of soldier. Soldiering was in his bones, in his blood. So therefore, when the Battle of Tololing was being planned, incidentally, it was not he, but his entire battalion. It was the battalion that was that had trained at Crewe for the counterinsurgency role. But now the role had become intense warfare, mountain warfare, not insurgency anymore. So when the unit went in, the Tololing became very crucial, very, very crucial, because it was the deepest incursion into our territory. It was more than 10 kilometers deep in India, and it was overlooking the national highway, which was the lifeline of our troops in and northwards. So the Pakistanis thought that once they have captured these heights, which are overlooking that road, they will be able to make salami chops, and it will be impossible for Indian army to remove them from those heights. But we reacted so fast, and we had young men with fire, divine fire in them, that made it possible. I want to tell you that an American team came from the Fort Leavenworth just to see where these battles took place. They could not believe that such a thing could happen. And even when they saw those places, they said, no, it cannot happen, which really happened. And so with that divine fire in them, they went up, they captured. Robin was very disappointed because they were not in the assaulting echelons. The two companies which had to go for the assault were Charlie Company and Delta Company on the two approaches up to Tololing top. So he was in reserve and he was feeling very bad that, you know, the assault part is not come to them. But then you see, wars never, a battle never takes the course as planned. And then Major Mohit was held up because the enemy had reinforced that area from where his company, Delta Company, was attacking, and they were stalled there. So immediately the CO decided, all right, put Alpha Company, who were reserves, to capture that particular area. And to his delight, he went in. The small details of that battle have been aptly described to the best, because you see, for 20 years I go there. For more than 20 trips to 2nd Rajputana Rifles, I've gone and met all those men who have fought in this battle. Some of them who had lost their limbs, some of them, I meet them, I talk to them year after year, and I have been making notes, and then we have put them in the book in the way it is. Rather than preempt the whole battle here, it will be very nice to read.
I would request all the readers to read this final battle where he took part and how he led those 12 men. It's amazing. It is like one of those raw courage which he displayed when he fought that final battle. Mohit is getting very restless. Mohit, we will not be very longer. But just one last question to both of you, to both Neha and to Colonel Thapar. I keep saying again and again, you have both loved and you have lost. And to pick yourself up and recollect those memories and to write that in a book, this requires a certain kind of an effort. Very quickly, we don't have too much time left. Neha, you go first. How did you bring about yourself that a book has to be written, this has to see the light of the day, the world has to know about it? Tell us about that. And then Colonel Thapar, you share your thoughts.
So like I said, my motivation, behind it was always the fact that I think that it's a story that needs to be told. But particularly Robin's story, there are a lot of ways in which I've always been able to relate myself to Robin. For example, how dependent he was academically on his father. I was the same. The year that I lost my father, I think I failed my maths exam. It was like that, and I was a good student. So every time when I would get to know more about him, it used to increase my intrigue because I wanted to know more. And he was so relatable, and it felt as if a lot of the ways, a lot of the qualities, or a lot of the thought process that he had was much like how I was at that phase. So yeah, it would be kind of reliving those days, because you're thinking of that time, and then you're talking when you're writing about those times, and then you're thinking that, okay, where were you at that time? And it kind of definitely makes it a little difficult, but when the purpose is so much bigger, then you learn how to hold yourself together and go ahead regardless.
And Colonel Thapar, for this has been a labor of pain and love for you both?
Yes, certainly. Actually, I had never a doubt that this book has to be written from day one, with the result that I have been collecting notes, getting small things together, put them. The only thing was, first 2-3 years, we made a website which is very well seen by people. After that, I was a little shy of getting down to write myself. But I got in touch with the various authors who promised me, but they had such heavy commitments on their hands that they couldn't. Finally, one of the authors, army authors, he told me, what's wrong with you? Why don't you write yourself? So that's how I got down to writing myself. And I found it very rewarding. I'm very happy I did it. And the point that you raised, there was a moment when I and my wife were shattered. And we sat down together and we decided that we will not give in to the gloom and doom situation. Robin is gone, but what is left with us is his legacy, his great spirit, and we should do something. He is very much with us, and let us go ahead and do something with which the nation can be, youth of the nation can be motivated. And therefore, I decided to go anywhere, everywhere where I'm called to give a talk or talk about the spirit of these young men. And if that spirit can be translated into everyone else, it will be great. This purpose would have been solved.
Colonel Thapar, your spirit of never say die, that of a soldier is so infectious. Mohit, we are through with the discussion. Sorry for taking a little bit more of time. And go ahead, and now the floor is open, and Mohit is going to,
I think so, not at all. I'm glad that we could hear this entire conversation, and not even once I thought that I could see the time. So that's my job to keep. But आज मुझे लगता है जैसे वक्त रुक गया था थोड़ी देर के लिए. और and I can very proudly say कि इतने दिनों से हम बहुत सारी बुक्स पे डिस्कशन करते हैं, अलग अलग किस्म की बुक्स पे डिस्कशन करते हैं. बट ये किताब नहीं थी जैसा मैंने सोचा था. ये किताब का डिस्कशन नहीं था. ये एक जीवन की गाथा थी. ये शहीद की भी गाथा नहीं, ये एक जीवन की गाथा है. And I'm very emotional right now. I relate it to. I have a daughter. She's 8 years, and it's not an easy task. And when Neha said she failed in mathematics, I think as a father, it touches you. And my father, वो आज भी हम बड़े हो गए हैं, लेकिन अगर हमें एक पिन भी चुप जाती है, तो I can see that drop of salty water in her eyes. So hats off to both of them. I think what they have done is they have been able to compile it. And मैं जो खुद अब बोलने जा रहा हूँ बहुत सिली हो सकता है, लेकिन जो मेरे जहन में आया मैं सबके साथ शेयर कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि सभी लोग हैं यहाँ पे. अगर मुझको इसको मूवी के फॉर्मेट में देखना होता, आई एम श्योर नेहा और कर्नल थापर ने भी सोचा होगा. I'm sure they would have a cast in their mind as well. We will talk about it. But there are a few questions that are already lined up. So Ridhima, if you can open, Mr. V. Bashir, he wants to ask a question. If you can open the mic for V. Bashir, then we have a question from Sarojini Datta ji, Noida se. Preeti Chaudhary. In fact, we are happy to open up mic and cameras for everyone. Please.
Thanks. Yeah, this is Vijit. So first off, congratulations on your book, and really happy to see the success that your book is getting, and rightly so, right? It's beautifully crafted, and it's put together in a way that it's allowing the readers to seamlessly immerse themselves into each of the parts of this hero's journey. And for you, Dr. Dwivedi, even if this is one of your first books out of many more to come, it's already reading like the work of a seasoned writer. So massive congratulations to you for achieving that. My question is more to do about the research that went into putting this book together. So to put together something like this and to capture a life's worth of details for this individual, there's a lot that goes into it, right? And you touched on that a couple of times, but could you share a little bit about what was your journey and the process during the information gathering phase, and any challenges that you faced in recreating the life story of the protagonist?
So,
Yeah,
I'll go?
Yeah, please.
So thank you for your question, Vijit, and thank you for the compliments as well. So largely, like I mentioned earlier, for me, there was a lot that Colonel Thapar and Mrs. Thapar already had about Robin's life. They have literally saved every information about him, even after him, and whatever has come out after him. But I also wanted, to get like all facets of his life out, as a brother, as a friend also, and everything. So so although largely what you see of his the aspect of his son has come from their side, but I also went and met a lot of people, and like I said, when I would go meet somebody, I would just ask for more people that I can meet, and I met as many people as I could. Sometimes I just spoke to people on the phone if I couldn't meet them, because a lot of his friends are settled abroad now. Everybody's grown up. So it was for me, it was a very enriching, very big, like an enriching experience. I really learned a lot as well. Like I really learned a lot about, how it is to live a life like that. And, it was very inspiring to know how he channelized even like his failures into a motivation to do better. And I would say writing about it was quite cathartic.
Sorry. This is what happens when you don't know much about technology. Can we open the mic for Ankit Ridima? Ankit is a UPSC aspirant who failed to make it possible last time to mains. Ankit, your question. I think Ankit wanted to say something rather than asking the question. We're getting a lot of messages in terms of the overall thought of reading this book. I think Ajit, would you like to ask a question, please? I'm opening it for Ajit. Ajit has a
yeah.
to say as well.
So it's not a question really. It's just a statement of gratitude. I just want to say that it's an absolute honor to be in the same, even though virtual, same room as Colonel Thapar and Dr. Dwivedi here. Many of us who were in our teens during Kargil, I know for myself and a few of my friends for sure, along with posters of Tendulkar that we used to have in our rooms, I must say that I used to have 3 photographs with me. There was Captain Kalia, there was Captain Thapar, and there was Major Vikram Batra, whose photographs I used to have. And blessed be the parents who gave birth to such children. And just मैं पूरा भावुक हो गया था इस पूरे conversation में. And thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to this book. Thanks.
Yeah. Can we open the mic for Preeti, please? Thank you, Ajit. Yeah, Preeti. Yeah, you are still muted, Preeti.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Same thing here. Jai Hind, Colonel Thapar. Thank you so much for the supreme sacrifice. There's nothing else that I need to ask you, but just the fact that, so thankful for people like you and also Neha, you that belong to the families of people that leave everything behind and go and do their bit for our nation so that we can sleep safe and stay safe. So thank you so much. I'm going to go back and have a read of the book. I haven't read it yet, I must admit. But in my own little bit, I am trying to do something for the veteran community as well. I belong to Jabalpur, which is one of the oldest cantonment in the country, as you already know. I'm sure all your families would have been based out of here at one point of the time or the other. Once again, gratitude and Jai Hind. That's all I need to say. Thank you so much for today.
I think I will unmute. Then I can't see the name, but there's a gentleman. I think he has been with Vijyant. I'm asking him to start his audio video as well because the name which is coming, it's a server address.
Okay. I've heard this.
Okay, that's you. Okay.
I just wanted to convey the same thing. I think Preeti said it as much. What I was focusing on was the letter. Robin's letter got me through many difficult days. For info of Colonel Thapar, I'm December 97. I am a XND otherwise. But during Kargil and further on in many times when my life was very difficult, it was reading Robin's letter again and again because the way he could relate to the family at a time when your life is difficult. That was something which really got me through because I had a chance to write those letters. It's never easy. So Colonel Thapar, and I remember your photograph sitting at the place to literally walk to that place. I can imagine like the passion that you had given to that guy. Hats off, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, it is not only a whole lot of people in India. I mean, I keep on getting their emails who really say that whenever we are in problem, not only boys, girls also, women also, married women, whenever we are in problems, we just read that letter. Whenever we are confronting failure, we just read that letter. And it gives us so much encouragement that everything is not over, still we can go ahead. So that gives me a lot of happiness.
So, Juggi sir, I think we are getting a lot of compliments. We all are emotional at this point of time, though we had floated it to many people. But I understand evenings for people, and we are still here to make a difference in people's life by just talking about books, because books are just not a reading material. Books are part of life, and I think this book definitely gives us good purpose at City Book Leaders. What I would like to say here, so whenever I think about such sacrifices, and I think it's been repeated again and again, that it's our duty as civilians, while we are living in this country, to live up to the dreams and sacrifices of people who have given it for the country, for those borders that we have defined. It's just not about borders, it's also about, today is the World Environment Day, and we have to take care of this earth as if it's our own country, this entire earth. And to all those sacrifices, and I'm sure, Colonel Thapar, you are in a place where I also live in Noida, and when you see someone spitting someone, hitting someone, not driving it properly, not following the basics of life, I think that's where it hurts the most. But nonetheless, we all will have to keep trying. We need to have everyone, we all need to have vision amongst us, and we all will have to live up to those expectations. And if he would have been there, and if he must be seeing all of us, he must be sending his wishes to all of us. And we can take up a few more comments, questions if required, and otherwise.
Say one thing, Mohit. Yeah. Mohit, can I just say?
Please.
Yeah. So, his story is not only it's very inspiring, but it is very inspiring for today. If all of us know right now what is happening on the on the LSE on the China border, and there are some reports that the Chinese might have come in at certain what are called finger points. They might be in possession of some peaks. They might have been there, and maybe there could be a repeat of Kargil. Who knows? I mean, one doesn't know what's going to happen in the future. So the story of Vijyant that way is extremely important and relevant even for these times. It's not only Kargil. Patriotism, heroism, and the desire to do something for the country, these are eternal stories. They have relevance in every point in time, especially now when this thing is going on right now on the LSE. So just a point which I thought, which is happening right now.
Sure. So anything, Neha, Colonel Thapar, you would like to say?
Yes, I would like to say that patriotism is never out of fashion. It is always there. It will always be there. Where we require to do something is that our leaders, our teachers, our preachers, and our parents have to give due emphasis to it. Of course, our military history is rich with the examples of such patriots who thought about the country first and foremost always. So that tradition is there, and only thing is that we have to put that concerted effort into changing the value system, into reinforcing the value system. If we are able to do that, I think we'll be fine.
Thank you, Colonel Thapar. Neha, Roshni, Juggi, everyone, if you comment, I think we'll try to stick to the timelines, and it's already 7. If we have no other questions, comments, I think it's been a fantastic journey, believe me. I'm so glad that we could do this discussion. I hope the feeling is mutual with Colonel Thapar, Dr. Neha, Juggi,
Absolutely.
Roshni. Everyone can open their mic and videos, I guess. There's a new term that has emerged nowadays, which we call Zoom-fee. So rather than a selfie, you all can take a Zoom-fee. We'll keep it as a memory. and we will share it with Colonel Thapar as well. You will get a copy as well, Dr. Neha.
That'll be nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining in.